Good afternoon and welcome back. I'm Marcus Peter. As is the case on this program, once in a while, it's crucial to have conversations about finances, especially because we as Catholics probably don't spend enough time thinking about the stewardship and the technical aspects of the stewardship of our finances. And so joining me to have a conversation about this is James Peregoy. He is a co-portfolio manager and trader for Ave Maria Mutual Funds. James, thank you very much for coming to the studio. How are you?
Thanks, Marcus. Good to be here. I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very glad to be able to connect with you. So our listeners don't know who you are. This is the first time you've been on the program. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, yeah. So my name is James Peregoy. I'm a co-portfolio manager at the Ave Maria Mutual Funds. I've been with the firm almost 5 years, and hopefully I can educate the audience a little bit.
Well, I'm really glad for that. Let's launch into a few things that we know we ought to be thinking about right now, at least. The first is what's going on in the equity markets.
Yeah, so we entered the year with quite a few concerns top of mind. And despite those concerns, chiefly, this has come up now in March, but the Iran conflict, public companies have reported strong earnings thus far, and today the S&P 500 just hit a record high. It's now up 6% year to date and up 14% from its late March lows. Just a little bit of color on the makeup of this performance. So 9 of 11 sectors are up year to date. So there's some good participation, while there is dispersion within each sector. Per FactSet, the index is a little bit trading at a lofty multiple at 28 times trailing earnings. This is historically high. However, earnings growth has been pretty exceptional so far. Corporate earnings are expected to grow 15% for the year, and we're almost through this first quarter's reporting season, and around 75% of companies have beat analyst estimates on their revenue or earnings. And so far, this quarter's earnings are on pace to be up 25% over the first quarter in 2025. So it just goes to show with the AI disruption fears, the Iran conflict, that stocks tend to climb a wall of worry. And what I mean by that is the markets as a whole are forward-looking, and so they tend to look past concerns in the immediate and anticipate their resolution. And there's been multiple periods in recent history where the U.S. has entered some kind of military conflict, and these indices, these stock market indices, have been up 6 months later. With Gulf War I and II, the S&P was up around 20% 6 months following the start.
Well, that's actually comforting news to know, because all of our listeners undoubtedly have been hearing the chatter, especially on social media, about how this is going to affect anything from stocks to finances to taxes to you name it. And so this is rather comforting. What are we looking at in terms of, say, fixed income markets?
Yeah, so the 10-year yield today hit about 4.4%. It's been largely range-bound between about 4 and 5% over the last year or so. And it's up about 0.25% higher from the beginning of the year. Investors are demanding more of a discount to basically lend to the U.S. or buy these treasury bonds. And I'd like to follow that up with the fact that the Federal Reserve has kind of been thrown another curveball with the war in Iran. If you recall, last year, tariffs were the conundrum at the time. That was,
oh, yes, we're aware.
That was expected to raise inflation, and which has run above the Fed's target of 2% since COVID. Obviously, a few years ago was pretty excessive. It reached around 8-10%. It's come down since then, but with this recent conflict, you've seen the effects of the war spill into our energy markets. And CPI, the Consumer Price Index, has jumped in its March reading to 3.3%, largely driven by those spikes in energy costs that feed through the economy quickly. In the Fed's last meeting, this prompted them to hold their Fed funds rate steady at 3.75%, erring on the side of being more restrictive rather than expansionary. And with unemployment still low and inflation not yet under control, the Fed is taking a wait-and-see approach to see how this conflict will affect inflation further.
All of our listeners undoubtedly are wondering, how do these numbers especially affect, say, the day-to-day operations? Like how is this affecting things like the grocery bills and their own lives?
Right, yes. So groceries in particular, a lot of the costs associated with those is the transport costs, and you're seeing diesel prices rise. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you exactly when that'll start to be apparent or felt, but I think cumulatively over the last few years, consumers have already felt the effects of that. Additionally, there's also some other areas where this is already popping up. So jet fuel, for instance, about 20% of seaborne jet fuel, so jet fuel that travels to its destination where it's loaded, goes through the Strait of Hormuz. And with ship traffic severely diminished since the start of the conflict, we're seeing airlines canceling routes and placing surcharges on some additional features like checked bags. And then another thing that maybe doesn't affect everyone every year is aluminum. Many people may not know, but 10% of global production of aluminum comes through the strait. It tends to be co-located near energy-dense areas such as the Middle East, its production. And this is from the Wall Street Journal today, actually. Auto dealers have been concerned about not being able to restock their lots due to production shortages of vehicles with high aluminum content. And some of those could be vehicles such as the Ford F-150.
What about agriculture? How's that being affected by issues with the strait?
Yeah, so this is a pretty hot topic button for farmers in the U.S. This is not something that most people could relate to. Farming as a profession is obviously, it's not as big of an employer as it used to be. But ammonia and urea, which are two key inputs into fertilizer, have gone up, and farmers are reportedly buying less this year due to those increased costs. So
in all of this, and even as we consider things like, for example, just a few days ago, we learned that the national debt has matched 100% of our annual GDP. In light of all of this, it's very clear that the Iran conflict is going to hit or is already hitting the taxpayer in ways that we see right now, but also in ways that we have yet to see.
Yeah, I think that's correct. And with regard to the national debt, obviously we've used some engineering to kick the can a little bit down the road each time, and we continue to run federal deficits at about 7% of GDP. And going back to my comments earlier about the fixed income markets, that 10-year yield, that's basically the cost of financing the U.S. debt, and so it could affect that going forward as well.
Well, okay, so we've got a few key takeaways here, but before I let you go, just very quickly, Ave Maria Mutual Funds, you're also celebrating your 25th anniversary.
That's right. So it's been 25 years as of May 1st this year since the launch of the first fund. And if you don't know about the Ave Maria Mutual Funds, it's a family of Catholic-oriented mutual funds, and what that means essentially is we screen out companies that violate core Catholic teachings, and those four primarily would be abortion, whether they contribute to Planned Parenthood or participate in embryonic stem cell research. And we have a Catholic advisory board that gives us guidance on that.
Well, that's perfect. My guest has been James Peregoy, co-portfolio manager and trader for Ave Maria Mutual Funds. We've been talking about the general state of finances here in the United States of America, but I also want to greatly encourage you to look into the Ave Maria Mutual Funds as an alternative that is not only ethical, but honoring our Catholic teachings. Stay tuned. I'm Marcus Peter.